So you were David's father, and he was your only son. And the new cut peats are rotting, and the work is left undone, because of an old man weeping, just an old man in pain, for David, his son David, who will not come again. Oh, the letters that he wrote you, I can see them still. Not a word of the fighting, but just the sheep on the hill, and how you should get the crops in ere the year gets stormier. But the Boche have got his body, and I was his officer. You were only David's father, but I had 50 sons when we went up in the evening under the arch of guns, and when we came back at twilight, oh God, I heard them call to me for help and pity, that could not help at all. Oh, never will I forget you, my men that trusted me, more my sons than your father's, for they could only see the little helpless babies and the young men in their pride. They could not see you dying and hold you while you died. Happy and young and gallant they saw their firstborn go, but not the strong limbs broken and the beautiful men brought low, the piteous writhing of bodies that screamed, "Don't leave me, sir," for they were only your father's, but I was your officer.
When you're a soldier, you're one of two things. You're either at the front or you're behind the lines. If you're behind the lines, you need not worry. When you're at the front, you're one of two things. You're either in the danger zone or you're not in the danger zone. And if you're not in the danger zone, you need not worry. If you're in the danger zone, you're one of two things. You're either wounded or you're not wounded. And if you're not wounded, you need not worry. And if you're wounded, you're one of two things. You're either slightly wounded or seriously wounded. And if you're only slightly wounded, you need not worry. And if you're seriously wounded, you can be certain one of two things will happen. You'll either get well or you'll die. And if you get well, you need not worry. Oh, you guys caught on quick. And if you die, you can only go to one of two places. You can either go to heaven or you can go to hell. If you go to heaven, you need not worry. Now, if you go to hell, well, you'll be so busy greeting all your old friends, you won't have time to worry. So why worry? What a friend we have in
will sleep beneath the sun. When this lousy war is over, no more soldiering for me. When I get my civvy clothes on, oh, how happy I will be. No more church parades on Sundays, no more putting in for leave. I will miss my sergeant major. Oh, he'll miss me, how he'll grieve. People said when we enlisted, fame and medals we would win. But the fame is in the guard room, and these medals made of tin. Just as we had these soldiers, I am soldiering with our men. What a good message to everything to God in prayer. The enemy in view, how happy I will be. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is official. The final shot of the war was fired at 11 a.m. this morning. We are at peace.
The war is over. La guerre it is fini, as the French say in half French and half English. We received the news yesterday morning. It did not come as a surprise, for we half suspected it, and we were ready for it. All one can say is, thank God it's over.
Pierce said, let's go outside and see what's going on. So the two of us went outside, and all of a sudden, bang! One shot came from way up the street. Got him right through the back and through the heart. He fell dead right in my arms. It was not an accidental shot. It was a sniper. And if there had been two there, they would have got both of us. I laid him down behind the fence there and went in and got Major Ross and the other boys and told them that Pierce was dead. The war's over, Ross said. The war's over. Well, I said, I can't help that. Hell of a note, Ross said, to think that that would happen right when the war is over. We never thought about the war being over. And poor old Pierce, he never knew the war was over. He was just doing his job.
On the morning of March 27, we first caught sight of the Canadian shore, and at about 10 o'clock, the Cedric anchored in Halifax Harbor. It was not until about 6 o'clock that the ship drew into the pier. Everyone was quietly waiting, anxious to land, when suddenly a band on the pier struck up a tune. It was only then that the thrill of landing gripped the men, and cheer after cheer went up. Almost immediately, a group of people appeared on the pier with baskets of good Canadian apples, which they threw by the handfuls to the now excited troops. The Canadian music, the Canadian apples, and the Canadian faces warmed our hearts. on friendly ground, with all the possibilities of peace and home and loved ones. That was the only time in 3.5 years in the Army that I shed a tear. A giant tear, the size of a pea, gathered in one of my eyes, rolled down to the end of my nose, and splashed off onto the deck. My tough-fibered little corporal was standing beside me and saw it. He looked at me in surprise and then smiled.
A soldier returns home from war to his homeland and his loved ones. He comes back unscathed and being given a grand welcome at the station. Well, the returning soldier knows he needs a paycheck in order to live, so he'll have to get started back at work, just as it was before the war. He recalls the promise made to him by his own townspeople, those who did not see active service but stayed at home to carry on. He believes that the promises for jobs upon their return from overseas were made to be kept. So off he goes to his old employer and finds that his job has been filled quite efficiently by a bright young man who during the years of the war had worked his way up and become familiar with changing conditions. Therefore, the employer, though expressing great regret at not having an opening, well, he sees no reason to or excuse to let his present man go. He tells the ex-soldier how glad he is to see him home safe and sound. He explains he'll have no trouble in finding an equally good job, as good as the one as he had before the war. In his wanderings around the city, the returning soldier hears much praise for the heroes who die, but no mention of the men who lived. Wasn't he taking the same chances as they were? And yet, the dead are heroes. Monuments are erected to their memory. They're publicly acclaimed, while he must tramp the streets in vain, searching for a job that will keep body and soul together. The ones who have passed beyond are, in one sense, the lucky ones. They're free of all misery and hardship. In the end, it's the returned soldier who must continue to face new trials, to carry on, to find his place in a world that carried on just fine without him.
I don't know which was worse, the war or the events that followed, with unemployment and even ex-officers selling matches on Oxford Street. Yes, it was all over, and in 1919, when I looked at my wife and family, and our 2 rooms that measured 14 by 14, and housed a family of 8, I said to myself, Tom, your king and country need you.
Do you remember the rats and the stench of the corpses lying just in front of the front line trench? Do you remember that hour of dim before the attack? And the anger, that blind compassion that seized and shook you as you peered at the doomed and haggard faces of your men? Do you remember the stretcher cases lurching back with lolling eyes and dying heads? Oh, those ashen gray masks of the lads that were once trusting and keen and kind. And what of dawn coming, dirty white, filled with the chill of a hopeless rain? Do you stop and ask, is it gonna happen again?
one soldier in the First World War was walking down the street, one arm off. Someone began commiserating with him, and he said, "Oh, I didn't lose it. I gave it."
Every November 11th, my wife shines my medals, I dress myself up, and we go to the cenotaph and take part in the service. So many things go through my mind. All those men who were killed, how unnecessary, that they couldn't have died an ordinary, natural death. It's a very terrible thing that a man has to give his life for his country. Some gave their lives, others gave their limbs, some their minds. People don't seem to realize the sacrifices these men made. In constant fear of death and dismemberment, living worse than animals, often knee-deep in mud, filthy, lousy, hungry, tired and terrified for year after bloody year. I'd feel very compassionate toward any teenager who considers November 11th just another holiday. I'd say, well, son, I don't blame you for feeling that way. You're young. Maybe if I were you, I'd feel just the same myself. But if you've got a minute to spare, come sit with me and I'll try and explain what some of these men went through. In this war, there were no winners. No matter on which side they fought, they were all victims. In war, the generals may propose, it is the common soldier who has to dispose. We must remember those fellows. Suppose something happened in the world today and your father had to go to war. You'd feel badly if he were killed in action, or lost an arm, or a leg, or even his mind. Just think it over, chum. And consider yourself darn lucky to be born Canadian, living in a free country, fought for by not only Canadians and the British, but by Americans, Australians, and New Zealanders. They all help to preserve the freedom which you have today.
Because we're here, because we're here, because we're here. We're here because we're here, because we're here, because we're here.
Did you have to fight the cockroaches, Nan? And when they brought the telegraph of Mark's heroic death at Muds, did you thank Madam for the 5 shillings, making sure that the fender gleamed as you cried your love goodbye? Were those years hard, Nan? The roaring 20s. The sighing 30s. You never said much. Your kids enjoyed them, but it was their youth. They had to. What was it like for you, Nan? Silence? Loneliness? Ah, perhaps better. Perhaps he would have died in the kitchen with a belly full of beer. But did you cry in bed, Nan? And did your hair still long and soft and yellow when you held me? Did it lie uncaressed across the pillow for the 60 years that left you with the memory of a husband's embrace? For what it's worth, I'll remember, Nan. I'll remember all those things you didn't tell me. And add them up. And seeing that the total was gentleness and kindness, was trust and innocence, was loneliness and sacrifice. Maybe, Nan, it something in it after all.
Ladies and gentlemen, the table before you is set for one.
Take your peaceful share of time with joy to spare, for it was a bloody game. Look up and swear by the green of spring that you will never forget.
Honor the ones who were killed here at home, as the terror of war takes on a new form. And be thankful for the freedom we all cherish, because defending it at home, brave men have perished. Lest we forget, lest we forget, lest we forget, lest we forget.
Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days of old lang syne?
Don't forget, if you want to warm your bones with some coffee, it's right up there.
In about 2 or 3 minutes.
Time.